Oh, the recording.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Hi,
Hannah.
everyone.
A few names that I recognize, Reshma, Leah. It would be great for those people that can. Hi, Beverly. Um, can you put on your
What are the potato
videos?
potatoes going in the fridge?
Just make
The
sure.
zero.
Let me make sure
Helen,
everybody's
can you help me put one
muted. Here we
first?
go, Catherine. Let's mute you. You can unmute if you've got something to share, but at the moment I'm just muting people. I've lost her. Just so that we don't have interference. Oh, there you are. Brilliant. Thank you, Catherine. Good. So as many, if you can, good to see you, Hannah, Paige. Um, if you can put your screens on, because it just helps us to feel that we're in a room full of women rather than looking at blank screens. It's really good to get your, yeah. Hi, everyone. Okay, there's Danka. Okay, we'll give it one more minute for people to come in. And welcome. It's good to see everybody. So I'm here with April. We're now working together as a team, which is amazing.
Hi,
And
everyone.
the work this week or in this class is really, we want to share with you, and the operative word is share. So if something comes up and you don't understand it as we're going along, or something comes up, uh, feel free to share, or you can share it in the chat, but you can also put your hand up and share. We want everybody to feel like they know what's happening. And if they don't, that we're here to share. So our intention for this 90-minute class is to really give a new view of, or an extended view, a more expansive view of, first of all, the vessel that is a woman that goes through menopause. So, in any transformation, we need a strong vessel. In alchemy, the alchemists had loads of different vessels for different things. But the main thing was that the vessel had to be whole and strong in order for the transformation to be able to go through its transformation in a healthy way. It's like the chrysalis of the caterpillar. It's a beautiful chrysalis, and it has to be strong and it has to be in the right place for the caterpillar to go into this very vulnerable place of mush to be reborn into a butterfly. And it's the same for menopause. So the intention for this journey is to really share this holistic model of what it is to be a woman going through menopause. And from there, we'll also be going through a small exercise that April and I will both lead just to tune into these different parts of ourselves. The operative word in any transformation where there is the loss of something and the renewal of something, which menopause is, the operative word is the dark. We go into the dark in order to transform. And that's the big thing we want to really highlight in this class together, is that the dark has been demonized as something that is bad, that is full of fear, that is just death and the ending, and we don't need to go there, and the shadow is all bad. And this is actually anti-feminine in the feminine aspect of life. I don't mean anti-woman, I mean anti-feminine, because the feminine is hugely a massive part of the feminine aspect of life, takes part in the mysticism of the feminine is in the unknown, it's in the soil. The baby grows in the womb. We don't see it growing. The seeds grow in the earth before they come out into the light as a plant. They are gestating and being born in the dark, in the warmth of the womb of the earth. And so there's this aspect that we neglect in life, in our modern society, but also in terms of the feminine and her initiations. So that's really what we'll be looking at as well. So let's just introduce ourselves with those people. I see a lot of people that I recognize, some people I don't, but let's introduce ourselves. So I'd like to introduce April. This is the first time that we've done a free class, excuse me, together. We're working together now as a team. And April, for me, brings in the piece that, I tended not to have time or energy to support, which is the practical things about lifestyle, herbs, flower essences, the support on a physical level. And plus, she knows the rest of the work that I do extremely well. So she's also very, very well trained in that. So over to you, April, just if you want to introduce yourself. Hi, Jill.
Hi, everyone. I'm April. I have been working with Cathy for a couple of years now, and so excited to be here. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I have a clinical herbal practice, and when I was first setting up my practice, I decided to focus on working with women through the perimenopause transition. And I chose that because that was my journey at the time. I was realizing that I was in this, nebulous area of perimenopause and things were getting a little bit difficult for me, and I wanted to understand it better myself. So I think we always want to, learn more about what we're going through ourselves. Um, so I really threw myself into learning as much as I could about this so that I could help myself, help other people around me, and started to work with people, like Cathy said, with very practical things like understanding, how people's bodies are changing, understanding how to care for ourselves at this time, diet, lifestyle choices. And then because I'm an herbalist, bringing in the herbs to help with this transition and, whether that's general support or very specific for what an individual is going through at the time. And the more I worked with people in my practice, I started to get this little idea that something was bothering me, right? Because as herbalists, we have a lot of great allies, herbal allies that we can use for nervous system support for things like stress, anxiety, cognitive issues, all kinds of things like that. And this is an overarching theme that comes up during perimenopause: anxiety, stress, depression, anger, emotional symptoms. And so I would put together formulas for people that did help. But there was a part of me that kept saying, this piece shouldn't be quieted. This piece is important, right? And when I found Cathy's work, it was the aha moment for me that, yes, this is why this piece is important. That's all about what she does. So when we got together and we realized that our work really complements each other very well, it was amazing. So I'm still on my journey. I'm only 51 and I'm still on my perimenopause journey. I'm not postmenopausal yet, but I can say that what I was experiencing in the early years of perimenopause, um, really intense emotional symptoms, anger, sadness, things I didn't know how to handle, even though I had those herbal allies. The work I was able to do with Cathy was the breakthrough for me. And now, as I'm getting closer to my own moment of menopause, it's so much easier for me having done this work. So that's my story. Um, Back to you, Cathy.
Thank you, April. Well, for those who don't know me, my name's Cathy. And one thing I've realized about, working now, I'm 60. I'm well over my menopause. One of my mentors, I learned from her that when you're a teacher, you can't move on to the next stage until you put someone else in your place. And so I've just finished a a 9 month, sorry, program, a mentorship program that April was part of. And I see different women in different ways having, really worked deeply for 9 months on this, taking different places that I was teaching. So that, I'm 69, it's really nice to be working with someone else and to take the pressure off a little bit. But my journey, so the reason why I'm here 10 years on, and I've taught all over the world in different ways and modalities, this work of the alchemy of menopause, is because, and I see this now happening to lots of women, as women approach menopause, often, not always, but often, some massive life thing happens, and it could be synchronicity, but it could also be, well, synchronicity is that attunement between what's inside and what's going on outside. But I see it over and over again. And this is what happened to me. I got to 50, I had a cancer diagnosis. My son was alienated from me. I moved halfway around the world and my mother died and my father threw all my belongings away. Now, this story, many of you know, but it put me into this massive crossroads. I had to heal from cancer. And this is when I found myself thrust into what they call the underworld, the unconscious. And eventually, helped by my husband, who's a Jungian psychiatrist, who gave me the tools of alchemy, I sort of scraped together a roadmap to survive this journey, which was unbelievably full of mystical things that I never even knew about my own life, including my ethnicity. So there was ancestral stuff, there was deep healing of survival strategies like codependency. I was faced with all these things that were ready to go if I was going to become something other and not just slide off the edge of the universe like the mainstream, would prefer us to do. And so I scraped together this roadmap that eventually became my workbook, which you can get for free on Menopause Alchemy website. And then started teaching this. And at first I was hesitant, because 10 years ago, people unfriended me on Instagram because I was talking about women's empowerment at menopause. And now things are changing. But what I think is the important thing to share is after 10 years of working with women, as I said, all over the world in all these different ways, but always on the subject of the alchemy of menopause, I know. Now I'm confident. I will scream it from the rooftops that this is not an illness. This is not a story of decline. Yes, we're getting older. Yes, our physical bodies are getting older. But there is a huge, massive transformational potential in the underworld. And the underworld is not a bad place. It is a place of healing. It is a place where the dark goddess, which is a part of the feminine, that is here for change, who is the mother of the crone, is here to help us become our next version of ourselves. And don't forget that women have 2 to 3.5 decades of life on average beyond menopause. There is no longer just the triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone. There is now maiden, mother, I call her sovereign woman, crone. Crone is like 80. But those 2.5, 3 decades ahead of you can be the best, most full of potential, inspiration, creativity, and true feminine leadership that you can't even imagine until you go into the journey. The caterpillar cannot imagine the beautiful butterfly that she is going to become. She's just a mush thinking, when is this going to end? I'm hanging upside down and I'm like glue. Yeah, we feel like that. But when like when you're pregnant, for women in the room who've been pregnant, it's not easy. I got massive. I had 4 kids. I always got massive. Always said, I'm not going to put on all the weight this time. Bloated with water, waddling around, loving parts of it, hating parts of it. But what got me through was that I knew at the end I was going to birth my baby. So imagine if women know at the end they're going to birth themselves. And the other thing to remember as we go through this class is that, you don't have a baby because you get to 30 and you want a baby. You have a baby if that's what you want, or if you're lucky enough to, because you have a relationship and then you have sex and then you get pregnant and then there's a fertilization and then there's 9 months gestation and then there's a birth. And a lot can go wrong. And there's a lot of process. And it's the same with birthing ourselves. It's not because we get to 50 or 60 that we are God-given right to be a sovereign woman in her power, in her strength. If we don't go there, we don't get there. The only way is through. But I know from 10 years of this work that the results are better than you can ever imagine. I wouldn't be sitting here. I was a codependent, catastrophic woman, mother, in so many ways throughout my life. True maturity is menopause. We birth ourselves. But in order to, in 2025, the other thing is that as we evolve on the planet, as humans, and evolve is a word we could maybe choose a different one at the moment. But as we move forward on the planet, our perception of ourselves, the psyche, the collective unconscious, our idea of what, the collective unconscious knows what is needed. There's a collective of billions of women going through into sovereignty. And it changes. And so in 2025, there is a rising, there is a need. And that need is to reclaim what is lost. Because without it, we're like a car slowly going towards a massive car crash against a wall. So there's a collective aspect to this work, and we'll look at that as we go along. So I'm just going to share a slide that a lot of you know. I've changed it round because of today's work, but I always share this slide because it's a very easy way. I've only got one slide, so we'll just share this one slide. Oh gosh, it's not there. Hang on, it's not there.
Oh, because you closed Chrome. It was in Chrome.
Oh shit. Sorry, everyone. Technical. Here's Chrome.
Yeah. And then we have to open it.
Okay, sorry, I closed Chrome and I shouldn't have done. So let me just go here and Gmail. Gosh, sorry everyone. And then I don't know where it is actually. Let's forget it. You find it and we'll put it up in a minute. You can
I can
send it to me or whatever. So I don't want to hang you around like this. I'm really, really sorry. So you'll see, because Florian is going to find the slide, but the slide begins with describing the anatomy of the psyche. So as a holistic being, the vessel that is going to go through menopause that I mentioned has different aspects to it. We all know the physical aspect. You're in a physical body, you're incarnated, here you are, you're physical, you're dense. But it doesn't stop there. Being holistic or working in a holistic manner isn't just, oh, I'll use the whole plant to heal this, or I'll use this whole natural plant medicine and I'll go on this journey. It is also about healing every aspect of yourself, of your psyche. So the trigger in menopause is biological, it's physical, it's hormonal. But you are not just a physical body. Intricately linked to your physicality is an emotional self. You have a whole journey of emotions throughout your life, from conception to death. And that creates a subtle body where these emotions take seed, which is completely, obviously you can't see it, it's integrated. It's part of who you are. It's part of your psyche.
can share that.
Okay, we're just sharing it. So sorry about this. Oh, here we go. Good.
Let's
Okay.
make a separate window so we can. And let's move it up here.
Okay, and now I can share it. Great, thank you, sir. Okay, so let me see if I can get on here and share. So here we go. That one or that one?
I would do that one.
Okay, so here's my one slide, as you can see. And so I'm talking about this physical body. We also have an emotional body, which is our life of emotions throughout our life from conception to death. We have a mental body, which is where our thoughts, our memories, our analytical mind, our scheduling, our linear mind, our working things out happens. And so we have this subtle body that is actually the place where all these seeds, all these thoughts seed, these memories, this ability to weigh things up, to analyze our beliefs, our negative beliefs about ourselves, our positive beliefs about ourselves. And then we have this collective unconscious, which is how we are connected to the collective. And the most basic, primal human way we're connected to the collective is through family and ancestry. There's other ways as well. We don't need to look at that now. But what I invite you to look at on the slide, and then we'll get off the slide, is this part here that says ego consciousness and is light. That is the part of you and your psyche that you are aware of. If I asked you to write a list of all the things you're aware of about yourself, or I did the same, I'm Cathy, I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I have 4 children, I live here, I do this, I am 5'9", or, I could make an endless list of all the things I know about myself. It would be in this light part of the diagram that says ego consciousness. I could make a list of all the things I'm aware of feeling. Sometimes I'm angry. Today I'm a little bit nervous. Yesterday I was this. I often feel this. I could do the same with the way I use my mind. I love my mind, or I criticize my mind, or I don't feel my mind's good enough, or I use my mind all the time because I love doing crosswords or whatever it is. But what I want you to realize and see in the diagram is that only a small part of the physical body and the emotional body and the mental body and the spiritual body are in the light. This could be the size of a tennis ball, and the rest that's darker is your unconscious. It is your shadow. It is all the things you maybe once knew about yourself but don't know anymore, and all the things you've never known about yourself, all the emotions that are there in your emotional body, but you don't feel them. Somehow you've blocked them, or you haven't brought them into awareness, or they're ancestral memories that have been kept buried. Same with your thoughts. There are thoughts you have that are subliminal that you're not aware of. Many thoughts you have that aren't even subliminal, but they pass you by. And the spiritual body, some people haven't even got that. Here we've put a little bit of the spiritual body into the light, but a very material person who has no belief in the spiritual will have blocked that off. So what I really want you to see is that the part of you that you're aware of, here it says ego consciousness, we could put awareness, is the size of a tennis ball compared to a baseball. Is a baseball round? Oh, what's a big ball? Football. Is in the unconscious. And so let me get rid of this sharing. So all change, all transformation, all rebirth happens in that dark place, happens in the unconscious. The unconscious is deeply feminine. It's equivalent to our earth. It's the place where female initiation happens. And this is what I realized when I went through my menopause. Because I had cancer, because my son was alienated, because I thought, this is it. Everything I ever knew sort of died away. My mum died. I left the country or the continent I was used to. My belongings left. Forced into the underworld or forced into my own unconscious. You know what surprised me? It was fucking amazing. It was painful. Sometimes it was very painful. There were tears. There were aha moments. But what I realized was that it was an amazingly beautiful, deeply feminine, deeply nurturing, deeply powerful, full of death and renewal and life, and deeply healing, and deeply connected to the collective feminine. And that's where my roadmap began. The only things that helped me move through that period, and it took me 6 years. Some of the women, I'm looking at Jill, some of the women in this room have kind of witnessed that. But the only thing that gave me a feeling of transformation, of hope, of healing, of I'm getting somewhere, not in the outside world, was unconscious material through dreams, through the imaginal realm and guided journeys, through working with my ancestors, through listening to my intuition, through listening to my hunches, through listening to this deeper part of myself, through reclaiming lost parts that were showing up, that at first were terrifying, because not only I had buried those parts of my feminine, my mother had, my grandmother had, my great-grandmother had, and we hadn't just buried them nicely with a little funeral. We'd stamped our feet on them. We'd stuck our finger up them. We'd spat on them. We'd left them to die because we had grown up, all of us, me, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, in a passionately colonizing mentality. Colonizing of people, I come from a mixed race line on my mother line from India, and colonizing of the feminine. All that was in there that I had to go through and reclaim. But at the end, and I didn't know when the end was going to come, because the other thing about the unconscious doesn't speak the same language, doesn't have the same rules, doesn't consider the same timing, nothing linear about the unconscious. It's cyclic. It's deeply feminine. So you can't control it. You can't say, well, I'm going to do this healing work for 18 months, then it'll be done, and I'll stop seeing my therapist, you can't do that. That's not the way the feminine works. She works in her own timing. And we have to trust. And sometimes you're going to feel like, shit, when is this going to end? What did I do getting myself down here? But one day, we realize, ooh, I think I've come back up. And when we come back up at the end of our menopausal journey, which can take 2 to 10 years depending on the woman, it is no easy ride. It is no quick little blip on our menstrual cycle of the, when we have that little depressive bit, when the egg is literally just before we get our period, the death of the egg. We're meant to feel ourselves in the dark. Society says, no, you've got to go to work, you've got to do all these things, there's no moon tent for you, just get on with it. And then we get depressed, and then we get angry, and then we can't deal with it because we're not honoring what was needed. But that's just a blip. This one is a biggie. It's a biggie. But when you come back up, what I found was I was embodied for the first time in my life. Dissociation had gone. I had a different voice, had my own voice finally. And I had done the initiation. So like any initiation, if you think of a tribal boy who's taken out at adolescence for months to, stalk the jaguar or whatever they do in the, hard nature, he comes back with the tools he needs to be a man. Well, when women go on their initiation, they don't go out there, they go inwards. And they come back with the tools they need to become a sovereign woman. So, for example, I'm at another crossroads. Something happened, it shoved me into some echoes of, I don't even need to go into it, but, a place where I know the narcissism of my mom, these things I thought I'd sorted them out. But you know the difference? That deep initiation of menopause gave me the tools, made me a woman who doesn't go into depression about this, who doesn't say, oh, it's the end of the world, who says, wow, more opportunity for becoming even more myself. And I have my medicine bundle. I have my toolbox. So that's the opening. April and I, and also I have to say, I keep calling April Rachel, even though I've known her for years, and we can't work out why, but if I do, I don't mean it. Well, I do, because there's obviously something there with a Rachel, but anyway.
Cathy, someone had their hand up for a minute. I don't know if there's any questions
sorry, I
at
didn't
this
see
point.
it. Would you like to
Was there someone that
get
had a
back up?
question?
Anybody can answer
No.
questions. We're going to go into just a small amount of tuning in to these parts of ourselves. But if anybody's got a question beforehand, fire away.
It was me. But I don't want to derail us. It's
No, don't
Teresa.
worry. Where are you? Let me see you. Hang on. Where are you? Oh yeah, see you. Good. Hi, Teresa.
Hi. In what you shared, the illustration that you shared, the the conscious didn't touch the self in the middle and the self on the outside.
Yeah.
Confusing to me.
Well, the self in the middle and the self on the outside are like fractals of your essence. So your essence is like, you could say in India, they call it Atman. It's like the impulse that brought you to life. It's like that purest, you could see it as a star in the sky. And it is both in the center of your psyche and at the outer edge, if there is, but there isn't, of your psyche. It's as if it's the microcosm and the macrocosm. It's the universe and it's a grain of dust. It's like Florian, my husband, always says, if you think of the ocean, and the ocean is there and the waves are waving and the wind comes out and a little dot of water from the ocean comes up and says, I'm an individual. Boom, and then it plops back down into the ocean. So there's this idea of the self is this massive self, which incorporates the whole universe in a sense, and also a grain of sand. And it's that impulse, so it doesn't get affected by all these other things which are momentary. I would also say on this, just before we begin, so what is important to me and how I really understood this is in the work that April and I do, the model of health is what we call the sacred inner union. It's an alchemical term to mean that there are these two opposing forces that come together in marriage and we birth ourselves. So a big part of the menopause journey, that diagram I showed you is your psyche. Your psyche, Jung talked about this, is always looking for balance, homeostasis. It is like all the other part systems in your body. It is always working for balance, even though sometimes you might not feel like it. It is working for balance. So part of this balance are these forces. I call them inner masculine and feminine because they are shaped by our parents who are in a couple, our grandparents who are in a couple, our great-grandparents. But if that doesn't sound right for you, you can call them conscious and unconscious, yin and yang, whatever. But they're always looking for this equilibrium. So why am I saying all this? I was talking, oh yes, soul. And so spirit is very masculine. If you look at spirit and soul as two aspects of the divine, you'd say, well, spirit is like the sun. It's the rays of the sun that shine down onto the earth and bring life. It is this sort of kingly, sun-like energy. And the soul is more akin to the moon. She is embodied and eternal. I believe she comes through the mother line, but that's another story. But she's embodied and eternal. And so a huge aspect of healing menopause in 2025, after generations of all the women whose shoulders you're standing on have been, shaped by patriarchy, is to heal the goddess, which is to heal our soul. So a huge aspect of healing at menopause is soul healing. And you'll see, how it actually mirrors the collective. You could say that as humanity, we're acting like a wounded masculine god because we're not honoring matter, which is the planet, which is the feminine, because our divine comes through matter. Menopause is about spiritualizing matter. Marion Woodman talks about this a lot, but I don't want to confuse everyone. So let's just go into some experiential. Okay, over to you, April.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little exercise. If you're in a place where you can get comfy, just relax a little bit, close your eyes. Obviously don't do this if you're driving or walking or something. If you can, just follow along, just get yourself comfortable for a minute. settle in your seat. Close your eyes and take a couple deep breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you exhale, just start to let go of any tension you're feeling. Let go of your worries or concerns for the day. Just kind of settle in. Allow yourself to relax. And with every exhale, just go a little bit deeper. You're being held by the chair, or the couch, or the floor, by the earth under you. You're held, and you can just let go. And now bring your awareness to your physical body. Just notice how it feels. Your arms and your legs, your head, chest, your belly. Just feel into all the parts of your physical body. Notice any sensations. Don't judge, just allow your attention to notice anything going on. And maybe your physical body wants to draw your attention somewhere in particular. Maybe it's something that's been on the edge of your consciousness that has been trying to get your attention, but you've been ignoring, or maybe it's something you haven't been aware of. But just tune in. Allow your physical body to show you what needs your attention. Maybe it's something that is ready to be seen. And just make a note of what is pulling your attention in your physical body. And now, while staying in this relaxed state, if you have a pen and paper near you, just take a moment to jot down whatever it is that came up for you. Just a couple words so that you can remember it later.
Okay.
If you don't have a pencil and paper, you can just make a mental note.
Okay. Remember to breathe. Keep your eyes closed once you've dropped down whatever you wanted to remember. And now bring your attention to your emotional self. This is a subtler aspect of your psyche and intricately connected to your physicality. It is a beautiful part of being human, a place where our emotions take seed. Yes, later on we feel them in our body. Our physical body might feel something in our gut or in our chest, but there's this whole emotional self that exists deeply connected to your physical body. So just notice, nothing to do, nothing to change, just open your awareness and allow yourself to notice What emotions are around or inside me, or am I feeling? It could be something you felt this morning. Could be something that's chronic and is often there, like anxiety. And we're not here to judge it. No judging. Nothing to do. Just bring a curious awareness to emotionally what's going on for you. Remember to breathe. And honor this part of yourself. As you honor this part of yourself as being as valid, as important, as wise as your physicality, just go a little deeper and notice if there are any emotions sort of nudging to get through that you've been maybe unconsciously or subtly pushing away. Remember, to feel is to heal. These emotions are beautiful signposts on your way to becoming sovereign. They are important messengers, and all an emotion needs is to be felt, to be honored, to be beheld. This beautiful part of the feminine psyche. So just notice, maybe like a little bubble of champagne that rises in a champagne glass. There's a little emotion that wants to be honored, wants to be safe enough in that vessel of the psyche to be able to exist, because it does exist, but we so often push them down. So just allow. You can also, as you're tuning into this part of yourself, notice how your emotional body feels as a whole. How does it feel as a really sort of subtler but mirror of your physicality, and so much part of it connected by the heart? Just feel. Is there somewhere where it might be a little stagnant that needs some movement, or needs some breath, or just needs some love? Even anger, when we honor it and we say, hey, anger, what are you angry about, my love? Anger feels better about itself and can even maybe show you it wasn't really angry, I wanted to cry, or I wanted this. Befriending our emotions is such a beautiful part of becoming sovereign. We've always done it as women. But this is a dive like we've never had before. Remember to breathe. Just allow. And again, if something comes up and you want to write it down, just scribble it down, but staying in this state, this beautiful state of openness and awareness of this vessel that is you. Remembering always to breathe.
Okay, and now bring your awareness into your mental body, into that part that thinks and plans and handles all the details, handles all of the busyness of life, organizes, plans. We spend so much time here. Just allow yourself to linger in this space. Notice where your attention wants to go, whether the thoughts that come, maybe some memories from your childhood. Memories come and go. Sometimes memories are triggered. This is where our beliefs are. Could be beliefs that we picked up from our family or from society in general or anywhere along the way. Just take a moment to feel into this space of your mental body, all of the things that come and go here all day long. No judging, just noticing, just allowing whatever comes into your awareness. And maybe there's something in your mental body that needs your attention, something that maybe has been on the outskirts and you haven't been paying attention to, or something you haven't been aware of at all. And now you're starting to get the pull in that direction. It could be a belief that needs to be examined. It could be an idea about yourself that maybe is no longer serving you as you move into this next stage of your life. Could be something that is maybe holding you back. Maybe it's something that served you for a long time, helped you get through a difficult period. It's no longer serving you anymore. Your mental body knows what needs your attention. So just allow whatever it is to present itself. No judging, just notice. And now, if you want to, just make a note of whatever came up, or just make a mental note of it. Take a moment to do so.
Okay, so remember to breathe. And this aspect of the psyche is very subtle. It demands just an expansiveness, an openness, as if you are becoming aware of just how beautifully expansive the human psyche is. Nothing to do, nothing to change, just allow. The spiritual aspect of the feminine psyche is very entwined with what we call sometimes the dark moon goddess or the dark goddess. She's a part of us all. She's the mother of the crone. She's the wise woman. She is the energy that guides with wisdom when we're in the unconscious, healing and transforming. And what I love, and it's so exciting about the unconscious and bringing it into its equal place in the way we function, is that it speaks a different language than the left brain. And it's in this spiritual body that we intuit that language. It's the language of dreams that come from the unconscious when you're sleeping. It's the language of divination. It's the language of when you know something without knowing it in your mind, you just know it. It's that deep, deep somatic wisdom. It's the place, the spiritual body, where we meet our guides. Maybe we have an animal guide, or maybe plants speak to you through this aspect of the self. It isn't a power place with one God on top. It is a beautiful place of psychic maturation. Remember to breathe. And it's the bridge between those denser bodies that we have just explored, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the collective unconscious, the rest of the universe. And our pathway to the collective unconscious is through the women who went before us. There's a channel made by your mitochondrial DNA, which is a round piece of DNA in every energy center of your cells that connects you to every woman who went before you, who carries exactly the same DNA. That's your clan, your lineage, your connection to the collective unconscious. Remember to breathe. And the beautiful thing is, in the physical body, right at the heart of that diagram I showed you, is the mitochondrial DNA in every energy center of your cell. It is the energy that keeps you alive. The mitochondria is settled in there. It's the code of your story, the story on whose shoulders you were born into. It is in your physical body, and it's your connection to the collective unconscious, which is why in menopause, often when we journey into the underworld or into the unconscious, we face the ancestral healing story in front of us. That is how we become whole. The feminine aspect of the psyche and of women has at its center connection. Remember to breathe. And as you sit there feeling subtly how enormous the human psyche is, how she touches all aspects of life, both light and dark, and both are equally beautiful, and she weaves the most beautiful stories, then we can say, bring it on, menopause, bring it on. So just stay for a moment so that when you come back to the circle, you're still bringing back that openness, that awareness, that expansiveness. Lots of love. Okay. So at this point, we have some time to actually share. So I'm always interested. I like it, often it depends, but sometimes something comes up in each part of the psyche that kind of has the same theme. That's when when a woman touches on her theme, because there's a theme. You each have your own story, as I said, and you have a theme. And the theme that you heal as you go through menopause becomes the wisdom of your sovereignty. So my theme was healing my sense of identity through reclaiming my great-grandmother. That's all I have to say. But I don't want to bore you with my story. But so my question is there anybody out there who actually saw a thread kind of as we asked you each question, as you tuned into each aspect of the psyche? Did anybody see a thread that had a theme? Just put your hand up or shout out. Okay, so nobody found a thread. Does anybody have anything they want to share that came up for them that maybe was surprising? Has this come from the unconscious? I wasn't ready for this. Or was it all exactly as you thought it would be? Or was it difficult to tune into your different aspects of the psyche? Or was it, actually, this feels good? Can you see the potential there? Whatever you want to share, let's open the circle. Otherwise, I'll just, yes, well done, Jill. I would have chosen you anyway. Because I know you.
Okay. I think the common thread, which is a recurring activity that I've been doing for years, and it never
I
ends.
didn't get the first word. What did you say? Sorry.
The common thread?
Oh, the common thread. Okay. Yeah, I got it. I got it. Okay.
Because if I just started with the physical, what really, for me, what I wanted to do was drop my head, the weight of my head. And that was kind of connect and stretch my neck and just this letting go. That's the
Yes.
thread of letting go. And it started with my head and moved to my emotions, which were a bunch of things, but shame and a feeling of helpless. Like in French, we say épuisé,
Yeah.
pas capable, can't go on,
Yeah.
can't. And this resurfaced in my ancestral. I'm sure I have a long line of women who are just um, feeling completely drained. And then my mental was like a soup, like a very messy kind of, there was curiosity, innocent looking, there was judgment, there was acceptance, there was letting go of perfection. That for me,
Yeah.
and that's letting go of perfection for me and many other women, I'm sure. Um, it's constantly reoccurring. And I think, oh yeah, I've dealt with it and whoa, it comes again. But we go deeper and deeper and you kind of get used to driving the bus full of all this stuff. Body image, that's really like right in my face. And it's like, be comfortable with who you are. And then, excessive exercising, wanting to, and of course I want to look good, but it's a bit more than that. It's a bit patriarchal kind of, it's deconditioning. So letting
Well,
go of all
because
these.
the perfection is in the acceptance of all that is
Mm,
in the unconscious. It is in the trust of the deep feminine. Don't forget, the feminine doesn't think and feel. So in a way, I think your unconscious has been very wise today, Jill, because the weight of the head, it started with the weight of the head. When we feel our head is heavy, it's full of thoughts, it's too full of thoughts, it's sort of dominant because it's heavy, but it's also, as you said, épuisé, it's tired. I want to drop my head, I want to lay my head down. Lay my head down, which is exactly what we need to do. The minute, it's like childbirth. Any woman in this room who's had a baby, the minute your head gets involved and says, oh, I'm having difficulty, I can't do this, you're fucked. Childbirth does not happen through the head. There is something deeper, wiser, more connected to the earth. Those contractions, you don't say, oh, I think I'll have a contraction now, call it in. No, this is something much deeper. Menopause is the same, but it's in this underworld that it's happening, in the unconscious of the self. So I think so the question to ask is, okay, how do I release my head into what it needs? How do I let go of this weight? And then you said letting go. So
yeah,
then
but then I get to the spiritual, like the next layer, and that was soft mud, very dark, deep in a underground cave with water. And I just wanted to slide right in there and
yeah,
I felt really good there. And just like, okay, like I was being held by the arms of a mother that I didn't
yeah.
really,
Well,
my
that
mother.
makes me think of the what are those plants that grow in the mud in water? Lotuses, the lotus that the beautiful flower comes out of the mud. You are going to be reborn, every woman in this room, if she goes through the journey.
But
But
there's lots of ugliness, and I'm okay with that. Like there's this like almost monster looking creepy
well, you
guy.
know what that is? It's the parts of ourself we have turned into monsters because they don't fit into patriarchy. Often when we do this work, we confront these parts of ourselves that are at first terrifying,
Mm.
because for generations, we've judged them, but they haven't been perfect. Our addiction to perfection. They are perfect, but they're not perfect in a world that dictates what it is to be feminine and be sovereign women, because it's a patriarchal world that's dictating it. So of course, nothing will ever, the feminine will never, ever be perfect in the eyes of patriarchy. The dark goddess, which is the deepest, most profound part of what it is to be feminine, she is cast aside by patriarchy. And I don't mean by men, I mean by patriarchy, power-hungry society that we live in, because she will never, ever, ever fit in and be okay with patriarchy. That's the difficulty. So hang on, Jill. So yes, and then you said, so I think the shame and the perfection go together. They're the things that need to be let go of. And then this, I think, and I'm going to hand it to April, but the question is, what honestly, how do we hold you accountable for, and I relate to this. I'm exactly at this spot myself again. But how do we hold you accountable for giving yourself the rest, the sinking into that beautiful, warm, earthy mud that your soul needs? That's the question. And I'm going to ask April because she'll have other ideas.
Right. So my work is different than Cathy's. So, what comes up for me, Jill, when I hear you talking is, this need for perfection and the idea of shame. So I would be curious to know how much you're taking care of yourself, if you're getting enough sleep, if you're nourishing yourself enough, if you're tuning into your body and what it needs and giving it what it needs instead of, constantly worried about what your obligations are or your whatever your idea of perfection is and fitting into that. But that's where I would go to explore. And then the herb that came up for me when I was listening to you was passion flower, because passion flower is such a beautiful herb for helping us to get out of our thoughts and our mental stuff that's going on and spinning our wheels and just kind of relaxing those voices and quieting them down. Yeah.
One more thing that makes me think as well is the symbolism of the heavy head and then the shame and the perfection. So, and this, I'm jumping ahead. I just want to put it out there because of people who haven't done any of this work yet. So I mentioned earlier this balance between the masculine and the feminine. So the masculine is our left brain. It's symbolized by our left brain, our left brain thinking. Our inner masculine is formed and shaped by the men in our lives as we were growing up, by the relationships the women and our ancestral lines had with men. All that has shaped our inner masculine. Most of us have some kind of tyrant before we get to the sacred masculine. So I'm wondering, Jill, whether in fact your psyche is saying, fuck this now, my head is heavy, this shame and this perfection. So the other question, as you give yourself that beautiful resting time, the other question I think that you could ask without needing it to be answered, because the unconscious will answer it, is what is the next step I need to step away from this inner masculine that makes me feel ashamed or makes me feel that I have to be perfect and makes my head heavy? That's all. Just ask the question. The unconscious will show you the way. And I often ask, every day I ask, please show me the way. Goddess, show me the way. Lakshmi, show me the way. Here's my altar. Use the language of the unconscious to speak to your unconscious. Thank you for sharing, Jill. I really, really appreciate it. And, Jill and I both are mums of big grown-up boys. I have 4 sons. How many sons do you have? 4 as well? 3. And so I think, when women have sons, there's this story, a very, very clear story of there's this inner masculine to heal. And the question is, what are you asking? What part of your inner masculine are you asking these boys to carry? I realized the other day when I was with my son, my inner masculine, part of my inner masculine that I really want to reclaim is this really kind of Mad Max mechanic, out there, practical, and my kids are like that. My dad was like that. My uncles were like that. And I want to reclaim that. That's a part of my inner masculine I realize is beautiful, is a doer. So, there's good parts to reclaim and more tyrannical parts to say, okay, thank you, goodbye.
I just want to say one thing, because I think you're bang on about the inner masculine. It's a part of me that needs to rise up and not take control, but be more present, because there's a big fear that if I do let go, then I'll just sink into the abyss and I won't be like, okay, right, let's get this done.
Absolutely. Well,
So
yes. Because there's the inner masculine that when you drop into the feminine says, what are you doing? That has no value. But then don't forget, and this is for everyone, this, we're talking about these archetypes, the divine goddess, the sacred masculine. Well, the sacred masculine cherishes the feminine. And he too has been ostracized by patriarchy. Patriarchy isn't the masculine, it's a power system. And so the sacred masculine who cherishes the feminine, who sees the life in all living things, the rivers, the trees, he loves you when you're in your feminine mud. He knows that's where you're going for renewal, where you're going for transformation, where you're going to be nurtured, where you're going to be still, where you're going to let go. And he loves you and he waits for you. And when you're ready and you say, out of that, this renewal has come, I move forward with this, he's there. But the journey of menopause, and I tell you, it's a messy fucking journey, excuse my French, is about, and it still goes on. This is the story of the world today. Each one of us women, we can't go and shout in the streets about feminine consciousness if we've got a tyrant inside. The journey of menopause is to be able to pull all these parts apart and say, hang on, when I bring my feminine in, where's the masculine? Where's this beautiful part of me that's going to nurture her? Or do I get a tyrant? That inner critic. And then that's the material. We put it in the alchemical vessel. We start working with it. We do it. We were all doing it. All the women I work with do it. And it's great. Sometimes it's like you want to fight it. I tried to fight the inner masculine, cut his head off, tried to do everything. Doesn't work. There are other ways. Good. Well done, Jill. Thank you. Reshma, see you.
Hello.
Hi there.
It's nice to be in a group with you all, like with you again so after a long while. But anyway, some of the things that connected me to why I wanted to speak, some things that Jill brought up was the head, but I started off feeling the right side of my body, my knee, my just to the my hip or my thigh was just calling out to me. And during the session, the guidance, right side of my shoulders came into play as well. So it was like all this right side. But then what came up for me emotionally was I was perturbed about a dream I had actually this morning. I got up and then I went back to sleep and had this strange dream that I was in a part of the country that I live in, and I was up in an area with my mom and my sister, and I was with them. I can't remember the basis of being there. I mean, there was a car that I saw, a car that I had like 3 years, was one of my cars, a red car, and I'm like, why am I seeing that car? And then also I left my mother and my sister and went outside thinking, okay, they were okay and I could leave. And I walked down this hill and it's raining and I'm covered in mud. And again, the mud theme. I'm like, why is there mud all over me? And there's water, I'm wet and cold and I'm going down this very steep hill. Then I decide, but I can get a ride with my sister. So why did I leave? And I decided to come back up this hill and it's like a struggle. It's so hard and so steep and I'm struggling to come back up this hill and I'm covered in this mud and wet. And then I get there and I have this phone in my hand, a cell phone. I'm trying to call her to tell her, wait for me. Don't leave because I don't know why I left. To wait, and it's not my phone. I'm like, whose phone? And I'm trying to call. I see my phone and I'm trying to call her through Siri, and I'm trying to say Siri and try to say her name, and her name can't. It's like very faintly coming out of my mouth. And another thing that came up too was the need for.
I can't do the whole dream, but I can tell you the things.
The dream is done. I'm done with the dream there.
Okay, well, just stop because it's too much. But what I can tell you is that every aspect of the dream is an aspect of yourself. So the questions to ask yourself is, what part of myself is my mum in the dream and my sister? So these feminine parts of yourself. And a car is often our persona. It's how we get around in the world. It's the mask we put on to get around in the world. So red car. And so ask yourself, when did I have this car? How did I feel about this car? What did this car mean to me? And so how does that relate to how I'm turning up in the world? And then I leave and I go downhill. Whenever we're going down, we're going towards the unconscious, towards the underworld. Why am I going down? And you go down and you're wet, it's raining, you're muddy. The rain is fluidity. It washes things away. It purifies. It's feminine. It's watery. And then you have the dirt on you. So what are you trying to wash off? What feels, muddy? And is that mud the earth? You need to come back down and go down more into the earth. And then, your whole thing with the phone is about, you couldn't really communicate. You couldn't make this connection with your sister. The voice was very faint, and et cetera, et cetera. But work with each image. Work with each image. I mean, there's a lot there. Going down and needing to wash off this, or being drenched with the water and there's this mud. For me, that's, you need to go back into the unconscious, into the feminine. It's not finished yet, Reshma.
Well, that's the other part of it. Part of me was like a need for femininity, this need for feminine connection. Like I want, like I was longing for feminine connection. Like,
yeah,
I'm meeting
that's obvious in the dream because they're your sisters. But I have to stop because I want to give other people a chance. I just want to ask April if she's got anything else she needs to say to you.
No, I was thinking all of the things you were, Cathy, and Reshma, it's so good to see you again. But just that going down into the unconscious, and I was thinking, you not wanting to be there and thinking, oh, I should have taken the car, and struggling to get back up if there's some resistance to that being in the unconscious or doing that work, if you're feeling some
Or even
resistance
coming
there.
back up. Maybe the resistance is coming back up, and being out there in the world. Maybe. But I would also say for everyone, dreams are the language of the unconscious. Dreams are gifts. If we don't open that dream and start working with it, it's like getting a beautiful handwritten letter and not opening it and reading it. Dreams are gifts to the unconscious because the left brain and the filtering brain and the judging brain is off. It's not getting involved. So the other thing with dreams, and all the women who have written about feminine consciousness, Marion Woodman, Marie-Louise von France, all the women, I'm useless at names, but about 10 really great writers who really force this work of feminine consciousness, all work with dreams. Because it is the language. It's like this beautiful gift. This is the way that my unconscious is telling me about what's happening now. And so I was just going to ask you, April, do you know what herbs or tinctures would you suggest for stimulating dreams? And one thing that Reshma did, when you wake up, if you have enough time, you say, I can go back to sleep for half an hour, you'll get a dream. You're more likely to get a dream then. But what about herbs, Ape?
Yeah. Well, my favorite one is mugwort. Obviously, it's the most effective herb for bringing on dreams for people who have a hard time remembering dreams or feel that they're not dreaming. We're all dreaming. We're just not remembering dreams. But yeah, mugwort. Sometimes you won't get a good night's sleep because your dreams will wake you up. But if you really want that dream that you can remember, write down and work with. I know, Cathy, you have some other favorites too, but that's my favorite.
Essential oils, clary sage is very good. Just smell it before you go to bed. Also, smelling essentials before you go to bed, they have done recent studies on its cognitive, how it helps us cognitively and can be a good aid for not getting dementia. Smell oils before you sleep. Have them next to your bed. Clary sage is good for dreams, but I find if I'm working with an oil I leave it my bed, I often get a dream. So it doesn't have to be clary sage. Great. Catherine. Thank you, Reshma. Good to see you.
And you too. So I just wanted a bit of understanding and a sort of a pointer. So when you were talking about your DNA and your kind of heritage, going towards mothers and grandmothers,
as
soon as you talk about that, I've got a block. because I have a block with my mother. So how
Yes.
and then she had a block with her mother.
Yeah. Well, two things.
So how am I going to get through that?
Yeah.
Because that is something
Very common. You're not alone.
I can't work with it.
Yeah. So two things. Having a block with your mother means that there's work that you need to do anyway, because, you know, there's a block in the mother line. But the way to look at it is like this. This is what really helped me. Your mother is literally, if you think of the mitochondrial DNA, it's round. It looks like a circle. And so I always visualize this, and each piece of mitochondrial DNA in your physical body resonates exactly the same. It's not been mixed up with the DNA from the nucleus of the cells. It resonates like a tuning fork with your mother and all her DNA, even if she's dead, your grandmother, your great-grandmother. It's a code. That's why the feminine has always been the gatekeeper of embodied ancestral stories. And that's why the feminine was actually, in most tribes, the ancestral inheritance of the feminine was the clan. So the way to do it, and I get you, because my mum was far from easy, is you don't think of it as your mother and then your grandmother. You think of it as a channel. That is the channel where this code, which I believe, because soul is embodied and eternal, comes through. So your mother is literally just a little loop in that whole channel. So you're not working with your mum. Don't work with your mum, because you'll just get blocked. Go further back. You know, if you're working with me, or I have a class, it's $97. It's what's it called? Shadow, Soul and Soil. It was a really good class, a really good starter on this. But I would see it as a channel. I would go back somewhere where it isn't blockage, where it doesn't feel bad. Just start to explore maybe even the place where your great-great-great-grandmother was. Or, do you see what I mean? Open it up in a way that is not gonna block you. But I can also tell you that underneath that block, if you can clear it, that's where your vital life force, that's where your true oomph for life lies.
Yeah.
You know, in northern mythology, they call it the Hemingja. It's this ancestral female energy that comes through, like the Jing or the Qi that comes through the adrenals in Chinese medicine. So this energy of the feminine is really what pushes us into life, and it's extremely important to heal.
Yeah, and you see, I've got 3 daughters, so obviously it's being passed on to them as well. So there's also a block there.
It's really, really important. I mean, I would love to work with you. I'd unblock it for you, but you know, when you're ready.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can I share, Cathy, a little bit of my journey?
Sorry.
I think it would be helpful because I had a huge mother block too. My wound, my core wound when I started working with Cathy was a mother wound. So, and I remember the first class I took with her, I was terrified because she kept talking about the mother line. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't, it would just terrify me. And so I can say that even as someone who is estranged from their mom and can't have like a healthy relationship with my mom now, I was still able to do this work and to heal that wound. And, the transformation that I felt in my own life that got me over that huge emotional barrier, I was still able to do that even though like my relationship with my physical mom was not able to be healed. And like Cathy said, I was able to go beyond them, find a healthy ancestor in my mother line to work with. And that was the channel. So it's amazing, healing work. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. Good to hear your accent. Where are you from?
I'm a friend of Dolly's.
Oh, really?
Yes, so she recommended you.
You just finished the mentorship yesterday.
Yes, I know. Yes, she's brilliant, isn't she?
Yeah, I've heard her talk about you, and you've got 3 girls.
Yeah.
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 Well, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So Plant Cunning, I like the name, says any tips on how to clear those blockages? It's very much, I have to work, even when we're in group, we work with each woman's story. So I'd have to know what the story was or whether, what was happening for you to be able to help you, because each story is different and we approach it slightly differently. Okay, Ruthie. and then we'll, yeah.
Hi, Cathy.
Hi, good to see you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to continue the conversation a little bit from what Catherine said, because, we're talking about far from easy mothers.
Yeah.
I also got one of those. And what to do with that thread, that matrilineal thread. I always think of kind of reeling it back in and remaking it into something that feels more true for myself. That's just kind of how I get past that block. And kind of also having empathy for whatever that blockage is there.
Well, I think you really need to find the blockage ultimately.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
you
saying
don't
to
have to
ignore
work,
it.
and you don't have to work with your mum.
Mm-hmm.
You could, what we look for is actually patterns. So once we find the patterns, then we can start to undo them, and we can start to do rituals, ceremony. We do all sorts of different things to undo those patterns. And I agree, you have to rewrite the story, but it's the unconscious that rewrites the story, not our conscious mind. When it's our conscious mind, we write a story we want, the unconscious is infinitely wise and benevolent. You have to trust her. She will weave the most beautiful stories that are unimaginable. Like I said at the beginning, the butterfly, the caterpillar doesn't know what a most beautiful butterfly she's going to become. Before we go through it, we cannot imagine the woman we're going to become. And so the thing to do, in a way, I mean, I can't do it now, but I would say do cutting the ties that bind with your mum, really work the boundaries so they're really beautiful and strong, and then we'll start work on something further back. That's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you, Cathy.
Lots of love. Okay, so I don't want to leave anybody who might have wanted to share something. I wanted to share something. I wanted to share, it's going to come down now in the sidebar in the chat, that Rachel, you see, I did it. I don't know what I did. April and I are teaching the Alchemy of Menopause together, and we're trying something completely new. And the reason, well, not new, the material is the same story, it's the same work, but we are offering it as a hybrid class, which means all the back end and all the videos are there, and other classes that are there, so you get the idea of really being in class for you to learn in your own time. And we meet you once a week for hot seating, for Q&A, for group coaching. Because before we were teaching the material, and then women were wanting to share, and so we've decided that actually the material is the material, and there's a lot of information, a lot of material for each stage. And so, and women like doing that in their own time, because it means that, they can do it in bed with that's their time, or in the mornings, or they don't have to be reliant on us turning up to teach it. But we turn up every week for coaching and for Q&A. And we also have individual onboarding. So as each woman joins the class, there is a questionnaire, because we want to know where you're at, and we will give you advice as to what themes to be aware of as you start going through. Then we will see you again midway to see where you're at, and then at the end. We also have a Pumble, which is a discussion group, which is very active, and women come in and share. So we wanted to share that with you. Do you have any questions about anything else? It's good to see everybody. Look at all these women. There are billions of us. We're going to do this. I mean, I've been doing it for 10 years, but now I feel like the time is nearer. Less people unfriend me on Instagram. Okay. So, anybody, how long is the class? The class is a 9-week program. The back end you have for life. And you have, in the class, there are 9 weekly meetings. Claire Stanley.
Yeah, and I'll also add there's 9 modules, and in each module there's material from Cathy, and then there's also some material from me.
Very
Because as
good.
we combined our work, right? So this is Cathy's Alchemy of Menopause course that she, up until now, has taught over a period of 9 weeks. And then combined with a class that I was teaching, which I was calling Perimenopause Crash Course, which was like she said, more of the practical stuff, the lifestyle, the diet. All, if you have these symptoms, this is, these are some strategies that could help. But each module has material from both of us.
And somebody's just said, this will be offered. Will this be offered? Yeah, and the material is extensive, by the way. This offer, will it be offered in the late fall? Yes. What we're doing is, I mean, women can join at any time, but they won't get the onboarding. So, the best thing is every 10 weeks, we will do a free class so people can, come in, have some free work as well until they're ready. So every 10 weeks, we're going to be giving a free class, and every 10 weeks, we will open it again. So for the onboarding, because the onboarding, we want you to feel we're with you. We want you to know we're with you because we are with you. So that onboarding is important because then we get an idea of who you are if we don't already know you. We give you some pointers. Then the Pumble, we're in there a lot. There's 2 of us, so you're never 24 hours without a reply. Other women share, and then the weekly meets means that you're held during this journey. And then for women who really think this work is important and maybe it would fit their modalities or they want to become certified in it, there is a program, a 9-month program, which I've just finished the last one, where you get certified. You get all the material, you get certified, and you can go on and teach this stuff yourself. So there's a whole journey, and you don't have to do both parts of the journey, obviously. What reasons do you suggest to do the class structure versus working directly with one or both of you? The class structure is the roadmap. So you have that for life. And it's a roadmap that you keep coming back to, plus all April's support through that roadmap. So there's nothing like it out there. This is the experience. And so I think being with other women, doing the roadmap, so you have this material, meeting up with us and being held with us in a group is very beneficial. And then sometimes women either have one-to-ones. I never want to make somebody a professional client. So what I usually do is I say, you might need 2, and we get something moving. And then come back in 3 or 4 months once you've worked on it, and we'll go again. I don't feel that it's fair to keep people coming back. So sometimes women, even when they're doing the menopause, might come for a couple of one-on-ones with the mentorship, and you have to have done the menopause, Alchemy of Menopause to do the mentorship. They have a lot of one-on-ones. I think I say 3, but women have as many as they need because, it's a big, deep dive. What day of the week or time is the live meetup? It's on a Friday morning, like now, because we thought Fridays is often easiest for women, and it's in the morning so that European and Americans, the only people that have trouble are Australia. Anything else? Let me go over here. Anybody else? You can share on anything. Doesn't have to be about the classes. If anything, don't leave with something on your chest. Well, lots of love then, if nobody's got anything to share. This has been really great. Sorry I was unable to join actively. That's okay. I liked your picture. I kept seeing your picture. Well, lots of love. And we're here. You can email us. We'll send you out some emails anyway before it starts. I think it's the 14th of June or... Anyway, we're here. And we love you. And thank you for turning up. And we'll be back with other free classes as well.
Thank you so much for your time, both of you.
Thank you. Ooh, thank you, Catherine. You're my country's sake and my namesake.
Yes.
Hi, I'm a fellow Brit too.
Oh, hi, Clara.
Hi.
Good. England
I
is now.
discovered you recently and it's just really resonated. So I enjoyed that so much. Thank you.
Brilliant. Great. Well, I'm actually going to England next week. So.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much.
Bye. Lots of
Bye.
love.
Bye. Thank you, Cathy.
Oh.
I'll stop recording.